Raising confident and resilient kids, man. The future, right? Setting the tone for the next generation. This is good regardless if you're a parent. Maybe you're going to be a parent down the line. Maybe you're a coach, or maybe this will just, you know, fill in some gaps from your child to where you're at now. It'll give you some answers. So, what we're going to get in today is building internal validation, modeling emotionally healthy responses, fostering independence and self leadership, modeling the life that you want them to live, and mental strength in a noisy freaking world. So, first things first is your kids are going to learn so much more from watching you versus listening to you, right? That's just the way we're wired. So many, you hear a lot of people say, like, oh, I'm a visual learner. We all are, right? We're wired to mirror others, and especially during childhood. So kids, they internalize how we live, not just what we say, because actions trigger emotional memory and neural wiring more than lectures do, right? They don't want to hear it, but they'll see it, they'll start to model it. Your habits equal their confidence, your consistency, your discipline, your routines, how you sleep, nutrition, focus, goal setting, all of that shapes their beliefs on what's possible. So if they see you waking up early, working out, reading, eating healthy, living out your purpose, that's going to become their norm, right? They're not going to know anything different. Children's pick up on your unspoken standards, like how you treat people, how you speak to your wife, how you handle pressure, how you show up when no one's watching. That's what shapes who they become. Building internal validation. This is where it all comes down to, man. So there's an awesome book by Carol Dweck, who's a world-renowned psychologist, and the book is called Mindset. It's all about mindset. And what she talks about is fixed mindset versus growth mindset. So she gets into a study about how kids were broken up into two different groups. One group was praised on their effort and how hard they were working and how much they were focusing. The other group was praised on the outcome, the achievement. Like, wow, you must be so smart for accomplishing this puzzle. So, what she was basically saying in that study is the difference between a growth mindset and a fixed mindset all comes down to how you praise the child, right? So if your kid completes a puzzle, or if they build something with building blocks, or if you're coaching wrestling and during practice they're trying different moves, instead of saying, wow, you're so smart for doing that puzzle, or wow, you're so good for how you did in that wrestling match, we want to praise their effort. Wow, it must have taken a lot of focus to get that puzzle done. I'm so proud of you for all that focus you put in. Hey, I'm so proud of you for all of your hard work right now that you're putting in the wrestling room. I see you trying that new move that we've been going over, right? This encourages them to step outside their comfort zone, right? Instead of just looking to win, right? Because if they're looking to win, then they're going to be afraid to step out their comfort zone. They're not going to want to risk losing that label of being good. And the same goes for the puzzles, for anything that they're doing in school or at home. We want to continue to praise their effort and their focus over the outcome. And this is going to instill a growth mindset over a fixed mindset. So, an example of a fixed mindset is I always believed that I just wasn't smart, like book smarts. And I was like, you know what? I'm just not book smarts. It just is what it is. That's just me, right? That's a fixed mindset. Someone with a growth mindset thinks of it as like, oh no, maybe if I just work a little harder, maybe if I try something a little different, maybe I'm not studying the right way, maybe I just learn differently. That's a growth mindset. I don't believe that I'm just destined by I'm not just stuck and fixed in a certain spot. I'm not just born that way. I can get better through trying different ways by working harder. Now, this was really interesting to me is limit how much you tell them good job. We want to even kind of try to ditch that altogether. And the reason being is repeating good job after everything teaches them to seek approval instead of building pride in their own effort. So over time, you'll notice they'll constantly be looking like, hey, did I do a good job? Am I doing a good job? I see a kid in my wrestling room. He's constantly looking over to his dad, like, how did I do today? Did I do good? He's just looking to perform so he can be told that he's doing a good job. He's looking for that external validation instead of being proud of his own effort. So what can we do instead? Ask him, how did that practice feel today? Oh, it felt great. It felt really good. Okay. What are you proud of? Right? So these open-ended questions lead to them reflecting, taking their own ownership. Maybe they didn't have that good of a practice. Well, how come? Right now they're starting to take ownership for that, and they feel good about their progress, not just your opinion. Shifting the focus back to them. So a lot of times my kids will want to come to me, Daddy, look at what I drew. Do you like it? And I'll tell them flat out, doesn't matter if I like it. Do you like it? Today, my son, he had 4 different outfits laid out for church, and he's asking me all about them. I'm like, you pick whatever you like. And he puts something on. He's like, Dad, you like my outfit? I'm like, I told you, it doesn't matter if I like it. Do you like it? He's like, yeah, I like it. Right. So now he's learning to trust his own inner voice and not rely on others to define his self-worth. Right. I see so many people struggling with, they're always asking for other people's opinions. Hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? But it doesn't matter. What do you think about it? Do you like it? Right? Constantly bring that focus back to them because it's going to build that inner voice that they can trust. You want to build a confidence in a kid, speak to them like an adult. And what I mean when I say that is, use full sentences, a calm tone, eye contact. Show them that they're worthy of being heard and understood, and that you're not just talking down to them, right? Talk at them, talk with them. Instead of telling them, hey, stop crying, or like, you're fine. That's what I was always told, stop, babies crying, stop crying, you're fine, shake it off. Instead, open it up. Say, tell me what's going on. That's a lot, isn't it, man? So I'll even tell my 2-year-old, like, oof, it's tough being a 2-year-old, man. I get it. That's hard, right? This helps them feel safe processing their emotions instead of suppressing them. We know what suppressing emotions leads to, right? So a lot of times, you're frustrated, you're overstimulated, you want to just say, like, stop, you're fine. Instead, take a moment, pause, and just ask them, hey, tell me, well, what's going on, man? You having some big emotions, some big feelings? Tell me about it. Kids can handle a lot more than you think. So when I never just tell my kid like, hey, you need to eat healthy. Instead, I need to explain to them why they need to eat healthy. Hey, we eat healthy because it's good for our brain. You know, we set boundaries because we don't let people inside our space. So, I'll tell my kids, I'm an affectionate dad. I want to hug and kiss them all the time. My middle child, he don't like it. He's not about it. So I let him know, hey, dude, if you don't want to hug, if you don't want to kiss, you tell me, Dad, space. Give me some space right now, please. And the reason you do that is because you never let someone in on your space if you don't feel comfortable, if you don't want that, right? So I'm explaining to them why they need to set boundaries. I'm explaining to them why they need to eat healthy. Now they're going to kids at school like, hey, you're eating junk, man. That's no good for your brain. But so it's a little much, but at least they're explaining to those kids why too, right? The kids are saying like, what do you mean it's not good for my brain? Yep, not good for your brain. Don't eat that. It's a proud dad moment for me. But that's why it's so important though, right? If I just told them, hey, don't eat junk food, can't eat junk food, what are they gonna? They're gonna see all the other kids. Why? They're all eating it. Why can't I eat it? Right? So explaining to them why they could handle and take on a lot more than you think they can. And this is going to build their critical thinking. It's going to build their emotional intelligence. So it's all about talking with them, right? Not talking at them. Name your emotions in real time. So emotional awareness, teaching them regulation. Not all the times, but a lot of the times what I try to do in a perfect world is saying, taking a deep breath, and it's like, I'm feeling frustrated right now. Sometimes I'm saying that as I'm gritting my teeth, but I'm feeling frustrated right now, so I'm going to take a few breaths. What does that do? It's teaching them, hey, this is a normal emotion. We all feel this emotion. How do you regulate this emotion? You take a few deep breaths, right? So now they're learning a healthy way to regulate their emotions. They're starting to understand what emotions are and what to do when they're having these emotions. And they learn by example. So even like I used to think that I used to have to hide stuff from them, like not talk about anxiety in front of them, right? Because I didn't want them to download something negative, but that was because I had the wrong script in my head. Anxiety, one, it's not a weakness, it's a signal, and two, it's normal. So no, I'll talk about it in front of my wife. Hey, I got a big meeting coming up. I'm feeling a little bit anxious about it. Now they hear, oh, anxious, like before a meeting, they're starting to understand what that emotion is because if they can now name the emotions, now they can also start to detach from them, right? So they're not growing up having anxiety. No, this is just a normal emotion that I feel, right? Even in the Bible, they talk about Jesus felt anger, he felt anxiety, right? These are normal emotions. So teaching them, this is what I'm feeling, this is what it's called, and it allows them to have the words to do the same. Normalize imperfection. So letting them see you feel something, pause, and then recover. It teaches them that these emotions aren't bad. Like I said, they're just signals, they're messengers, and you're showing them how to feel them without shame. There's nothing to be shameful about feeling these emotions. This is huge. So learning to say, I don't know. I grew up in a household where everybody just acted like they had the answer or they would bullshit you. Everybody had to have the answer. And I even teach this to adults as well, meaning not with parenting, but in sales all the time. I'll let people know, hey, I don't know the answer to that right now. Because that's also, it's going to, one, it teaches humility, but it builds trust. So when it comes to your kids, admitting you don't know something lets them know that it's okay not to know something, right? I was always petrified to raise my hand in class because I didn't want to have the wrong answer and feel like I was stupid, right? Back to that fixed mindset. So letting them know, like, no, even dad, even mom, they don't know all the answers sometimes, and that's okay. It doesn't mean that they're not smart or they're not capable. It just means that they don't know the answer to that. Um, encourage curiosity. So, especially at a young age, they have so many questions, right? It could be like you're driving in the car, 150 questions in 10 minutes. it could be easy for us to get aggravated or annoyed or just start to dismiss those questions. But when I'm saying prayers with my son at night, one thing I'll talk about is I'm so proud of all the questions that David has. I love that he loves to learn, right? Because what is that building? It's building that curiosity. So I don't have to have all the answers to the questions. Like, if it's about dinosaurs, or the latest questions they were asking me is what's the craziest oceans in the world. I'm like, I don't know, guys. Like, let's look it up together, let's figure it out together, right? This is modeling that growth mindset, and it's a shared experience. Now I'm not embarrassed that I don't know the answers. I don't feel like I have to know all the answers. I don't feel like they're going to view me as less of a dad if I don't know all the answers, right? I want to encourage them that and let them know that I most definitely don't know all the answers, but we can work to figure it out together, right? That's that growth mindset. A fixed mindset is just, oh, I don't know, so we don't know. I don't know. Sorry, man. Yeah, ask your mom, ask your teacher, right? No, let's figure it out together. That sounds really cool. Um, when they see that you're not pretending to have all these answers, they're going to feel safe to ask more questions. They're going to feel safe to make more mistakes, and they'll be honest about their own gaps, right? Especially maybe in sports where they they feel like they're missing something. They'll feel safe being able to let you know that, and then that's an opportunity for more growth to get better, right? So it's really about, even in wrestling. I mean, you know what? That's a good question. I don't really know. Someone else is really good at that move. Let's bring them over here, have them show us together, right? All right. So when I first started learning about the brain and the subconscious and how much yelling can impact that in a negative way, right? Kids can internalize that, and that can lead to stress, anxiety, and insecurity throughout the rest of their life. I was like, I'm never yelling at my kids. I'm not going to ruin my kids. That's not going to happen. I learned quickly that that's impossible, right? No matter what, at the end of the day, we're human beings. I said in the Bible, Jesus, God sent his son down in human form. He felt anger. Jesus felt anger. You best believe you're going to feel anger. And there's going to be moments where you're going to yell. Now, the trauma and all of that programming is not caused by the yelling, unless it's a regular means of communication, like you're constantly yelling. The trauma is caused when there's no re-engagement after, right? Or where you flipped out on 1 minute and the next minute it's like, oh, we're good now. Everything's back to normal, right? So that's where stuff starts to get internalized, and they start, they can't rationalize anything, and they start internalizing. It becomes these negative subconscious programs. So first things first, when you yell at them, you need to give yourself grace. In the beginning, when like I said, when I was learning all this, and then I found out that I actually am human, I'm still gonna yell at them. I would beat myself up over it. It would crush me. Like, oh man, I'm ruining them. I'm doing such a bad job. That doesn't get you anywhere. That doesn't help. Instead, you need to give yourself grace. Well, what does giving yourself grace look like? Well, let's say your wife came to you, she was overstimulated, she had a long day, she yelled at the kids, and she came to you, she's crying, and she's like, I can't believe I yelled at them like that. Like, I'm such a bad mom. What would you say to her? You wouldn't be like, hon, yeah, you're right. You fucked up, and you're screwing them up, and right. You wouldn't double down on that. No. Instead, you'd be warm and empathetic. Same thing if it was like one of us coming to each other after a rough day and we yelled at you'd be warm and empathetic. You wouldn't double down on the mistake that they made. So that's what giving yourself grace looks like. So what I like to tell myself during those moments, I'll walk away, I'll go somewhere by myself, I'll take some deep breaths, and I'll say, I'm an awesome dad who's having a tough time right now. Because That's truth right there. First of all, everybody on here, just being on here shows how good of a dad you are. You know, you're showing up here on a Sunday night. So giving myself that grace, like, no, I'm an awesome dad who's having a tough time. I'm a human being. I was feeling angry. I was overstimulated, whatever. Then I take some deep breaths. I got to calm my nervous system, right? Because it was all jacked up through the roof and cortisol was shooting out. Like, I need to calm myself down, center myself, and then I'll go back and I'll re-engage them. I'll get down on one knee because I don't want to talk down to them, right? I want to be at eye level with them, speaking to them. And, I'll put my hand on their shoulder and I'll let them know, hey, man, I was sorry for yelling at you before. That was wrong. Daddy was having some big emotions. I should have taken a deep breath instead. So this does a few things. These moments are incredible teaching moments for your kids. One thing it does is it shows humility. Oh, dad apologized. That's what we should do. When we know that we did something wrong, we should apologize. That's what dad just did. He apologized. It lets them know that, oh, these big emotions are normal, but yelling is not the way to regulate them. That's wrong, right? Instead, I should take a deep breath. So now I know that it's important to apologize when I'm wrong. These emotions are normal, and the way to manage them is by taking deep breaths, right? So that's where you turn the conflict into a deeper connection with your child. And it's an incredible teaching moment, but it also builds a deeper connection with them, which is really cool. And you're teaching them how to own their behavior and how to handle it properly. And this is also, I'll also mention, I didn't like what you did just there, but I still love you. And what's that showing? That's showing that unconditional love where, hey, no matter what you do, I always love you. It's not based off of how you're performing, how you're behaving. I didn't like what you did. I didn't like that you hate your brother. I didn't like that you weren't listening, but I still love you no matter what. To the point where now my middle child, he walks around and he's like, Dad, you always love us, right? Even if we're doing bad, even if I'm like, yeah, all right, yeah, don't get carried away now. I don't think you go do bad, but that's why it's important to walk through that whole entire script I just went through. So fostering independence and self-leadership. One of the worst things I see, especially at like the playgrounds, is the helicopter parenting. The mom's, oh, careful, don't do this, watch out, yeah, watch where you're going. Oh, don't do that, don't climb that, don't jump off that. Well, it's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Take a deep breath. Let them learn for themselves a little bit. Like a lot of people, they come up to me, they're like, wow, it's amazing how coordinated your kids are and like how they're able to, the way they run and jump, even the smallest one. And it's because I let them listen to their own bodies. So if they're climbing, if they're jumping, if they're getting really dangerous, like thinking about jumping off something a little high, I'm right there. But what I'm telling them is, hey, listen to your body right now. What's your body telling you? And now they start to kind of think about it and they're like, ooh, this is a little dangerous. Maybe they'll step down. Maybe they'll say, like, you know what? I can do this. I got to be a little bit careful though. So, now my kids are like Mowgli. They're like swinging from vines in the jungle, man. They could climb trees and all that as high as they can go. But it's because they learn to listen to their bodies, right? It's because I wasn't helicopter parenting them 24/7. And that was something I had to learn. My wife, she was great at it. She was very hands off with it. But I don't know, maybe because I was so crazy as younger, I was afraid of them getting hurt. So initially, my instinct was to kind of be like a helicopter parent, admittedly. But modeling, seeing my wife how she was handling is how I actually learned. Like, oh, okay, we need to teach them to learn from themselves, to listen to their own bodies. So that's really cool. Um, if they're getting frustrated, trying to learn how to tie their shoes. If maybe they got the magnet tiles going on, they're trying to build all these buildings and it keeps falling down. they're having these meltdowns or they're screaming or they're getting annoyed. Don't rush to come in and teach them and fix it right away. Let them work through it on their own because that's gonna teach them problem solving, persistence, grit, right? Not that, hey, mommy and daddy, we're not always gonna be here to fix it. Like you can work through this. You know, again, emotional regulation, right? Hey, take a deep breath. I know that was frustrating. Maybe try it a different way. You got this. You can do it. Just keep trying. Try it a different way if that way didn't work. Do you know what happened right there when you put that last piece on? What happened when it fell? Right? Get them thinking. And this is going to be so beneficial for them down the long run. Don't just rush to come in and fix it for them. And this isn't about withholding help. It's about fostering growth. Another thing, my kids, every now a lot of times they forget their water bottle before they go to wrestling practice. I'm not running back to get it, dude. Like, you're not gonna have water today. That is what it is. Or if they forget something at school, they gotta learn that consequence. These moments they teach accountability and confidence without me even having to lecture them, right? They gotta feel it firsthand. So again, this isn't about withholding help, it's about the growth. This is huge. And again, this is my wife came in huge with this is creating micro tasks for them. So stuff like, hey, making your bed in the morning, packing their own lunch, tidying up, all these little tiny micro tasks. One, they're great for their dopamine. Two, it teaches them ownership and self-reliance, right? These stack up to a strong sense of capability at the end of the day. They feel capable to do things. They feel that responsibility. Consistency creates identity. So when they're doing these things daily, even small, it starts to shape how they view themselves. They view themselves as someone that's responsible, as someone that contributes to the family, as someone that can do things on their own. Let them take the lead. So a lot of times I'll be like, hey, it's your turn to set the table tonight. It's your turn to take out the garbage. Hey, who wants to pick the playlist for the dance party today, right? Let them take the lead on these things because that again, it gives them ownership. It makes them feel valued and trusted and capable. They're watching everything that you do. Everything you do, they are downloading it, right? Without even saying anything, they are just sponges. They're looking at every move you make, how you talk to people, the habits that you have, all of it. They're looking at you, they're downloading it. So, what was great, I have dumbbells at home. My kids, they watch me exercise, right? They're constantly seeing me work out. They watch me go in the cold plunge. They watch me eat healthy. And as a result, they want to do all this stuff. If I'm working out, you best believe they're right there next to me. Not because I'm forcing them to. One, it's their norm, but two, they want to be like dad. So they want to work out. They want to go in the cold plunge. Where I'm like, dude, I don't even know if that's healthy for you at your age, but we'll give it a shot. But the cool thing is we're instilling these habits without even having to teach them. They're just modeling our own habits, right? So I'm not vegging out on the couch. I'm not playing video games. As a result, they're not doing that either, right? So you don't even need to have these crazy strict rules in place because your actions and your habits, they set the standard, right? They're just being at this point, right? You don't have to force it when you live it. So live out these lessons that you want to teach. If you want them to value health, if you want them to value hard work, if you want them to value faith and kindness, let them see you living it, right? You can talk to your blue in the face, but if your actions don't meet your words, it don't mean nothing. Like they don't need your lectures. They need the living proof. How do you speak to your wife? How do you speak to customers on the phone? How do you speak to random strangers, right? That's what they're seeing. Okay. Are you, if you want to build a foundation of faith, are you saying grace at night? Are you before meals? Are you praying before bed? Let them see that. How you work hard. My kids, I'm grateful I have an office at home, so they see, no, dad's working right now. They see how much I value my health. And as a result, they are just, that's just who they are. Right? I don't have to lecture it to them. I'm the proof. Right? Next is they feel your intentions, man. And you know, I'm guilty of this. My kids, they act out the most, they get the craziest if I'm sitting in the room with them and I'm on my phone. Anytime I'm sitting in the room and I'm on my phone, whether I'm uploading a reel or editing or scrolling, whatever it may be, they start bouncing off the walls. They get crazy. They start fighting with each other. Why? Because I'm faking my presence. Physically, I'm there, but I'm not really there, right? I'm distracted and I'm disconnected, and they feel that and they want my attention. So they're going to act out to get it. So I need to take time where no, I'm putting this damn phone away. I don't care what needs to get done, who needs to be answered. I need to take time out of my day where I'm completely unplugged and I'm like, all my attention is on them, right? I need to slow down, and it's going to help them to then slow down, stay curious. And it can't just be a one-time thing. This has to be a daily thing. They'll remember the little things, your morning routine, how you treat strangers, how you show up and you're present with them, and that's what's going to shape who they become, right? So you got to live that version of them that you want them to be. I can't stress that enough. Kids model everything and they feel everything. They're so uh, uh, in tune. They have such strong intuition. They feel energy, right? And they react off of that. So we need to show up as the best version of ourselves, goes back to why I say, the best thing that you can do for your kids is work on yourself, do your own personal development journey, learn how to regulate your own emotions, right? So we can show up as the best version of ourselves for them. So then they could grow up as the best version of themselves from a young age, right? This is huge, man. The screens are dangerous. Social media is dangerous. You know, I don't really have to, obviously, I don't have to deal with the social media right now. We'll see if it changes, but right now, I'm like, my kids ain't allowed on social media till they're 18. I don't know. That's easier said than done when all their friends aren't on it either, but we'll see as time goes on. But that's my plan right now. Um, Social media, screen time, it's ruining kids. It's ruining kids, their mental health, their cognition, the ADHD, all of that. And it's because it completely drains their dopamine, just like it does for us, but even more so for the kids. You think we get a burst of dopamine out of this? You put a screen in front of a kid, TV, iPad, their dopamine absolutely explodes. And that's why you see these insane meltdowns when you take it away. And it's like, because they are hooked quickly. So every time they're on that screen, it's a massive dopamine hit, massive. So we want to be really conscious about how often we're doing that. I'm not gonna lie, I'm guilty. Sometimes I'll put on a show for them because I need to get something done, and I know they'll be crazy if because I need to focus on something else and whatever. So, but I'm very conscious of it, right? You don't want that to be the default where you're constantly just putting a screen in front of their face. And also you want to be very, very conscious of what they are consuming because this dopamine is exploding. What are they associating this pleasure with? Right? Just like adults, I say be very conscious of the music that you're listening to and the shows that you're watching. If you're listening to negative lyrics or you're watching these crime shows or reality TV bullshit, well, you're experiencing a hit of dopamine during that. Your reward center is going off. So now you're associating negativity with your reward pleasure center, right? So that's very, very dangerous. So what can you do instead? Instead of the screens, what we want to do is help them develop that left side of their brain. That side of the brain gets so neglected just as humans in general. When you could start incorporating the left side of the brain, they'll start to have what's called whole brain integration, which is so good for their cognitive function, for their memory, for their mood, their mental health, their emotional regulation. So, stuff like building with Legos, building blocks, magnet tiles, coloring, drawing, um, playing instruments, puzzles, all that stuff is fantastic for their left side of their brain. And guess what? I say the same thing for adults. You want a nice nighttime routine, wind down, do some coloring, get that left side of your brain going, do a jigsaw puzzle, draw, whatever. It's so good for us. Why? Same thing. We want that whole brain integration so we can increase our cognitive function, our memory, our emotional regulation, and our overall mental health. Let silence happen. 2025, all the technology going around, so much noise. We need to teach silence and self-reflection. Give them space to sit with their thoughts, help them process their emotions, build that self-awareness, and develop their inner voice. So an example I like to give is, when you pick them up from school, hold off for a minute on asking them about their day. Just kind of pick them up. You could let them know, hey, I missed you, whatever. But let them kind of sit there in some silence for a little bit, because what's that going to do? They're naturally going to start to reflect on their day. And maybe they'll open up unprompted and share something meaningful with you. So that moment of silence, it's good. We really want to encourage that. Let them sit in stillness, daydream, explore without direction. These quiet moments spark imagination, problem solving, out of the box thinking, everything that makes a really successful entrepreneur, right? So, today, I'll give you an example. My kids didn't want a nap. I'm like, okay, you don't have to nap right now. They're getting older, but their siblings were napping. And I say, look, you don't have to nap right now, but it's quiet time. Tonight is quiet. Today, this time is quiet time. You got to be quiet. So what does that do? What do they have? They have to be imaginative. They have to get creative, right? They have to daydream. And this is all crucial for the problem solving, for that out of the box creative thinking, right? And that's going to be so beneficial for them growing up later in life, at their jobs, that if they, or being an entrepreneur, whatever that looks like. These skills, that ability to be imaginative and creative is so important. Discomfort builds resilience. Learn to sit in silence even when it feels awkward or uncomfortable, because it's going to teach them patience, emotional regulation, and the ability to be present without constantly being stimulated. That's why sometimes every now and then I'll do like a ridiculously long meditation session for myself, because I know what kind of resilience that builds. But also, I'm like, okay, I need to reset my dopamine receptors right now. But what are you doing when you're sitting in silence like that, especially for an extended period of time? Your body wants to get up, it wants to go anywhere else but sit still, right? Your mind is saying, go check your email, go and hop on social media, see if that person got back to you, blah, blah, blah. And you force yourself to sit in that discomfort, you're building incredible resilience. So, an example I like to give, maybe you're at a waiting room for a doctor's office or something. You don't let them on their screens. Maybe they'll fidget, maybe they'll get restless, but over time, they'll learn to breathe, observe, be still, or they'll kick the shit out of each other like my kids do. But anyway, it's about, hey, we're not doing screens right now. You know, you got to sit here, just be patient, breathe right now, meditate, do your breath work. Teach them to disagree with you. You might be thinking like, what the hell are you talking about? There was no disagreeing when I was younger. But no, that's a great thing. Healthy disagreement builds critical thinking. Again, like we were just talking about. That's what's going to lead to them to be these different upper echelon type of people, business executives, entrepreneurs. Encourage them to push back, question your opinions, share their perspective. This is going to teach them to think independently and stand up for what they believe in, right? So I'll say stuff like, that's an interesting perspective. All right, thanks for sharing, dude. But also, how are you handling disagreements with your wife, right? This is very important. Is it a safe space where your wife feels safe expressing a different viewpoint? Uh, Teach them that they can debate without it being a conflict, or that they have to fear this debate, right? It's an opportunity to understand, to grow, to build relationships. So if they see you and your wife, you're in a debate right now, and you're like, okay, yeah, that's interesting. I hear you. I hear you. I don't see it that way. This is how I'm seeing it, right? So teaching them how to have a healthy debate. It's so important to do it with them, but it's also really important to remember they're modeling however you guys are going to interact as husband and wife, right? So show them what a respectful debate looks like, and that it doesn't have to end in an argument, or just because you guys disagree it doesn't have to get disrespectful or shutting down, or holding a grudge and scoffing. And no, you're allowed to disagree without it being an argument. I mean, talk about it, talk through it, hear each other out, see each other's viewpoints. So I mean, to sum it all up, it's comes down to presence over perfection, man. Our kids, they don't need a perfect parent. No one's perfect, but they do need a present one. They're not going to remember every mistake you make, so don't beat yourself up over them. But they will remember the moments that you showed up, you listened, and you made them feel seen. And that is so powerful. Connection is more powerful than control. You don't always have to have the answers. There's going to be times where you don't keep your cool, but what matters most is that they feel that unconditional love, that no matter what they say or do, you love them, and that they're supported, and that they're valued, even in the messiest moments, right? You're shaping a legacy, not just a routine. Every conversation, every hug, every laugh, it all adds up to a childhood that they're going to carry for the rest of their life, that they're going to pass on to their kids, and they're going to pass on to their kids. So just focus on being fully present with them and not perfectly polished, right? We don't need perfection.